Okay, I'm hoping you can hear this. This is Thomas Goins from Researching Your Roots. And basically what I'm going to be doing on this channel is using Ancestry.com, which I have a personal version of subscription. And as I do my research for my own family tree, I will be recording what I'm doing and trying to tell you what I'm doing at the same time. I've never done this before, so I have done the research, but I don't normally talk while I'm doing it. So this is the new part about it, is that I will be actually narrating what I'm doing. I'm sure you could probably figure out what I'm doing just by watching, but for people that have difficulty following what I'm doing, because I may be going quickly at times, I'm going to try to say what I'm doing. And once the video's uploaded to my channel on YouTube, if you have questions or say, oh, you were going too fast on that, or you didn't explain that well, then you can write me in the comments, or you could send me an email, which I will eventually have on the channel. But at least you can put it on the comments, ask your questions, give suggestions about how I could do better. Basically what I'm trying to do here, if this is really recording, and I don't know if it is, I got the idea to do this from my son, who likes to do online computer games, and he often watches on YouTube other people who are playing their computer games, and at the same time they're recording what they're doing and showing people how to play the video game or the computer game, show them how to go up different levels, how to get different things during these games. Like some of them are for fighting, most of them are fighting where people are shooting each other and stuff like that. But this gave me the idea that these people can record what they're actually doing while they're playing computer games and can say things, and their voice is recorded. So you can see on the screen what they're doing, and it's recorded, and the voice is recorded as they explain what they're doing. So that's where I got the idea. And that's what I'm trying to do today. So this is my first time, and this is my practice. So I don't even know if I will actually post this one. I may just do it just for fun, just so you can see how I change over time and how I get better at this. This little picture here in the circle, if you see that, that's on my channel. That's me when I was 18 years old, a little over 18. And that was the picture I did for my mom for my graduation. Because in the yearbook, I had my hair long. This was in 1982, so my hair was kind of long. And I had a mustache because I was a young man wanting to prove that I could grow a mustache. So that's where this picture came from. If you see that on my YouTube channel, that's not me today. That was at 18 and a half or so years of age. I am 55 and a half now. That was 37 years ago. And I don't look that thin anymore. But I do still wear glasses. So that was a corduroy suit that I had on. And back in those days, we had vests with our suit jackets and the pants were the same fabric. And then that tie is my dad's tie, actually, because I didn't have very many ties. It's a pretty good picture, I think. My mom was very pleased with it. And that's what I replaced my high school yearbook graduation photograph with. For her sake, she wanted one of me looking more clean cut. All right, so you know that. Now, the program I'm using is called Ancestry.com, and this is a site where it's basically a database where you can type in information, as you can see on this screen here. I will move my cursor, And like these windows here where it says first and middle name, last name, place your ancestor might have lived, birth year. These are the places where you put in the information to help you look for possible civil records or other types of records that have been stored in usually courthouses, churches, other government buildings in the past, and they're now digitally recorded and stored digitally online. And Ancestry.com has either bought that information or was given that information for free, usually as a donation, to help people with their family history, their genealogy, your family tree work. There are a lot of libraries throughout the United States and the world where you can go get this information in books and in paper form and in microfiche and what's the word for the film? Microfilm. A microfiche is kind of like a little teeny microfilm, just a piece of microfilm, but it's blown up big and it has information on it. So it's one of the ways they used to store lots of pages of information on a small piece of plastic, basically, or they would use microfilm, which you're probably familiar with from spy movies, where they have a roll of tape that's basically a negative, and if you put it on the right kind of machine or you hold it up to the light, you can see what's on there. They have machines now, microfilm machines, that you put the roll of microfilm on and you can run it through a lens and lights, and it shows up on a big screen in front of your eyes, and you can see the information that's stored on those films. Those are the old ways of storing. Well, a lot of that microfilm and microfiche and papers and books and things were scanned or photographed and then digitized and put into digital format. And that's what you're going to be seeing online here. So if you wanted to find some information about somebody, an ancestor or some other person you're looking for, like a birth record, a death record, a marriage record, and the information that's on those, this website, Ancestry.com, can do that for you. There are other genealogical databases out there, like MyHeritage is one, and there are others. I don't have them memorized. They used to have what was called RootsWeb, and that was free, and that kind of comes from Ancestry. Ancestry kind of came from that. I don't know if they bought it or took it over, or if they're the ones that started it originally. But they no longer put information into RootsWeb. It's a free database that you can look up, and you can get a lot of information. Ancestry, you do have to pay a subscription, and you can either pay it monthly or every 6 months or yearly. I'm not sure how they do it now, because my subscription happens to be free, and I won't go into why I have a free subscription, but I do. I used to pay for it, several $100s a year. And MyHeritage, I also get it for free, and several others. And so, there I go. I said, Isn't that nice? Now let's go back to this window here where you put words in to look up people's information. You can click on show more options, and you can just a minute, let's see. Scroll down here. You'll notice that you can add information like you're looking specifically for birth information, marriage, death, arrival, like from another country to the United States, departure, if your ancestors were originally from the United States, maybe they left and went to another country. Or you can look up departures of maybe they left from Germany and came to the United States. You can also look up military information on whomever you type into these windows here. All right, so if you put in a name here, I'm going to put Joe Smith. It's a common name. Let's just say he was born in 1900, because that's kind of in the middle of the United States history. And let's say we want to not just look up all kinds of records, but specifically military records. And if I know where he was born, let's say he was born in Dallas, Texas. You type in Dallas, it'll give you the opportunity to choose where in the country of the United States your Dallas is. I'm talking about Dallas, Texas, so click on Dallas, Texas. Now, if you happen to know where that person's, what time that person served in the military, like say he was in the World War II or something, you could put 1942, and maybe he was, I don't know, Germany. Maybe he served in Germany. You click on that. So this is what you do with Ancestry.com. The reason I didn't put something in this place your ancestor might have lived is because I'm interested in birth information and military specific information down here. Now, if I didn't know this information here that I put in for birth and military, let's go ahead and get rid of that. I could, maybe I heard that he lived in Arkansas. I could just type Arkansas, which is kind of northeast of Texas, of Dallas, Texas. And I still know his birth year, so I'd put in 1900. But I don't know if he was really born in Arkansas. I just know he may have lived there. So I can put that in to help me look in Ancestry's database, their storage records for information on Joe Smith, born in 1900 in Arkansas. And then if I scroll down a little further, you'll notice I can add information about father, mother, brothers or sisters, which is sibling, spouse, or a child that Joe Smith may have had, and that might help me more easily pinpoint the Joe Smith I'm looking for, because there are going to be a lot of Joe Smiths and probably a lot that were born in 1900 even. Okay? And there may have been many Joe Smiths who were born in 1900 who lived in Arkansas at some time and were in the military. So the more information you can give that pinpoints the person you're looking for, the easier it is to find the records you're looking for that particular person. I hope that makes sense. And then, of course, you can put male, and that way it doesn't really look through the female records. If the record actually states that the name that is being looked at is a male or female, then it will not look at the female ones. If the records that the computer does in a split second, it looks through, doesn't have any way of it knowing if it's male or female, that information will still pop up. And so even though you're looking for a male, you may still have females that come up when it actually extracts the records from the computer search. Just know that that's because there was no gender specified in the record. But by clicking on male here, it'll still bring up fewer records, and so you won't have to look through so much when records finally come up on the screen for you to look at. Okay, I usually leave it in all collections here. That means that the computer, Ancestry's computer system will look in every collection that it has stored records in. Okay, now if I didn't want to do that, then I could click on this and I could look in the different countries that are in its database and for different ethnicities. Okay. So, but I'm not doing that. I want to look at all these collections here that we have in front of us right now, just in case there's information in other countries and under ethnicity for the Joe Smith I'm looking for. Now, once I've put all that information in up here, and I will review it, see, once we put all that stuff in there under names, places, years, gender, and all collections, then we can either press on search here, or there's one way up here at the top under the name and place, okay? So either one of these you can click on. Now, this here, match all terms exactly, I always leave it off. I don't click on this because if I do, then it's only going to look for something that's spelled exactly the way I typed it into these windows of the database, okay? And if I don't click match all terms exactly, then I will find records that are spelled similarly or that would sound similar to Joe Smith as I've typed it in up here. Okay? So I'm going to click on search now and see what happens. Now what you're going to see now is pictures or typed information like just a page of or document to look at about different people named Joe Smith who may have lived in Arkansas and were born in 1900. And since did we ask for military records? I can't remember if I left that open or not. I didn't, so it won't find anything about military specifically. But let me show you what it's going to look like. So click on search. So now what happens is we have a list of different possibilities for the person I'm looking for. A member of my family that's alive or deceased. What I'm trying to do with this channel now is to help people find their ancestors, but also you can look for your living relatives because sometimes the descendants of your ancestors who are not in your immediate family might have family history or genealogical information or pictures or other things that could help you in your genealogical research. And if you do find them, living people, descendants of the person you're looking for who's deceased, you find them on Facebook or through other social media or through white pages looking for their name and phone number, address, and you contact them and they're willing to talk to you and be friendly because you're maybe distant cousins. A lot of times you can get information from them, emailing. Got somebody subscribed to my channel. So I'm going to look through here. And of course, I just put in a random Joe Smith, born 1900, who may have lived in Arkansas. So none of these people are going to be who I'm looking for because I just put in a random person. But this is what it would look like if Joe Smith, born in 1900, who lived in Arkansas, was one of your relatives or is one of the people you're looking for. And what you would do is you have to look through each one. All right, you look at this and you say, okay, is this him? Is this him? I'm circling the information. And you can just scroll down. And not every one of these sources here for a record will necessarily be the person you're looking for. So you need to have enough information like name and birthplace and years and things like that to help you pinpoint or narrow down out of all the Joe Smiths, the person you're looking for. And we'll talk about more of that in a minute. But this is what it looks like once you put in the information and you click search. You see how it's putting people that are born close to 1900, but they're in 1899. That's because I didn't click on the specifics based on what I typed into the database windows. And so it's actually giving me information that's similar to what I was looking for. Some people born in 1900. This is a Joe Ada Smith. That's probably a female. Okay? Born in 1900. So I'm looking for a man. So that's probably not who I'm looking for, but I would probably still look at it just to make sure. Here's a Joe Smith born in 1900. Now, what kind of records have come up? Well, we'll look at the top here. This is a 1930 United States federal census. That means that the federal government in 1930 went around sometime during that year and they used to do it house to house. We didn't receive a census like we do today where we fill it out at home and then mail it back in. Now, sometimes they still go in person, but it was more popular back before 1950 for census workers to come out to your house and get that information they were looking for. They're trying to figure out how many people in the United States in 1930 for tax purposes and for other purposes. And so when I click on that, what's coming up here is the name again with the 1930 United States Federal Census, and it actually has a captured photograph. It probably came from a microfilm where they scanned or photographed the microfilm or the microfiche records. And I will click on that in a minute, okay? First thing we want to look at is the record information. This gives you more information. It gives you the name and the year of birth, gender, race, birthplace. This person was married in 1930 when they took the census. He was the head of the house, whatever that means. I'm not 100% sure about what that means back then. This is where they were living at the time of the census, Afton, Oklahoma. If you want to see where Afton, Oklahoma is, you can click on this and it'll give you a map of that. Tells you what house number they were living in, dwelling number, family number, based on how the census recorded things. Tells you they were renting, not owning. And then there's some more information here. This particular 1930 census tells me that the age at his first marriage was 18. And in this census, he would have been about 29 or 30 years of age. So it tells me they were married 12 years before. He was with a particular woman named Josie Smith. Okay? And it looks like she was a few months older than he was. So that's one way we can get, if this is a particular person I'm looking for, because I know that my Joe Smith was married to a Josie Smith, and I know they had these children, Dawn, Irene, Hattie, and Joe, then, that would help me because now I know that they were married about in 1917, 1918. All right. And I can verify that, one, because it says that Joe was married, his first marriage at age 18. So I'm going to presume Josie was his first wife. And I'm going to go and click on Donald, who's their first child here. It says he was born in 1920. Most people in the 30s were married before they had kids. So it's probably true that they were married around 1918, 1917. Okay? Because Don was born in 1920. That makes sense to me. And, we kind of have to put aside the political correctness. We have to talk about these things because this is the way things were in 1930. Most people were married before they had children. And so you have to use these strategies to figure out if the information that you're seeing in this census record is correct or not. Okay? And one of the reasons I tell you that is that you're not going to just use this one record. If this were the Joe Smith that I were looking for, you need more than one civil record to prove that person's name and that person's birth year, birthplace, death year, death place, spouse or spouses and children and other relatives, okay? So you're going to be looking for more than just one record. So you wouldn't just stop here. If this were the Joe Smith that we were looking for, we wouldn't just use this record as proof of his existence and when he was born and where and all that other stuff, okay? We're going to try to find more than one civil record so that we can say that we're almost 100% sure, or we are 100% sure of the information that we've found about Joe Smith, okay? Now I'm going to go back where I came from, and you see the family here. And we'll go up to where the picture is, and we'll click on View. And now you're going to see, it looks like that wasn't I don't know why my picture won't go away. I can close it. There we go. It's gone now. This is an actual photograph or scanned image of a page in a handwritten U.S. Census for 1930 in Afton, Ottawa, Oklahoma. You find that up here. And of course, this is the 19 federal census, so it was done by the U.S. government. And over here on the side, you can make it bigger by clicking on the plus, or smaller by clicking on the minus sign. Now, if I want to see when this census was taken, I would go up, click the plus a couple times, and see you can just, what you do is you have this little hand here, and you put it in a particular place on the image, and then you click on your left, what is that called? Left mouse button, I guess, one time and hold it down. And then with your mouse, you can move, or if you have like one of these touch mice on a laptop, you'll use that and you'll push it up and down. That way you can move up and down on the picture, see? I can pull it down, I can push it up, I can take it side to side. And that way I can see that this particular 1930 census was taken and enumerated by this person, Margie Hall, on April 11th, 1930. So it's kind of like going back in time, and on April 11th, 1930, she was talking to people in these different homes. And we have the names here, and then we have place of abode, and there's all other kinds of information, relationship to one another in the house, home data, and you can make this bigger if you want to see what home data specifically means, and you can read that here if you're curious. It gives the gender of the person, the color or race, age at last birthday would be found in 13, marital status or condition, age at first marriage, and some other information about them. Then they have place of birth for the individual that's listed here on the census. Let me find Mr. Smith. We'll work with his. So here we have Joe Smith. He's the head of the home. He was a male white person, 29 years of age in his last birthday. So I guess it says he was married. That's what this M is for. Then the 18 here tells us, like it said in the written document record we saw before we saw the picture, that he was married. Age at first marriage was 18. Well, so was his wife. Age at first marriage, they were both 18. Then it says something about attended something and reads and writes. I'm not sure. What does it say here? Attended school. When the census was taken, when Joe Smith was 29, he was not a school student, okay? And it lists that, yes, he could read and write. And then next, it says his birthplace was Arkansas. Then it gives his father and mother's birthplaces, language, and then some other information. He spoke English. It says here he must have been born a U.S. citizen because he didn't immigrate and he wasn't a naturalized citizen here. And then it says his occupation was a section hand in the railroad industry. And then this has something to do with his work, these things here. Different work, unemployment. Was he a veteran? No. If he was, it would have given a war code. Then about farm information. So that's what census record did. Why do we need this record? Why is it important? Well, for one thing, it gives me his place of birth and his parents' places of birth. Now, that's not 100% certain that's where he was born, but it's probably pretty sure. And then it helps us figure out what year approximately he was married. And then it gives a spelling of names. Now, sometimes they misspell the names, okay? They might, Joe is kind of hard to misspell, but every once in a while people get in a hurry, might skip a letter or add a letter by accident. So that's one of the reasons we want to get two civil records to make sure we have the right spelling of the name, the right place of birth, the right year. Same with death information, same with marriage information. So I hope that made some sense. So this is the first record we're looking at. And I'm going to make it smaller so you can see kind of what a census record looked like. It was a rectangular looking page. Now, if you want, you can always go to the next one in line in this particular film, and it'll give you another page. But, if you want to look at that for curiosity. One thing I've learned, though, is that Joe Smith's relatives might have been living nearby. So sometimes I'll look on the page I would look on the page before Joe Smith and on the page after, just to see if there are any relatives. Okay, and if I saw Smiths on this page, I might ask myself, were they relatives? And I might make a note stating this information, and then it might help me later find people he's related to, like his parents, for example. Maybe his parents live on the next street or something. Maybe the wife, Josie's parents, brothers and sisters, things like that. Okay, so this is how we enter people's information into Ancestry.com database, and then we can get records and information on that person. Now, since this is a person that I just added, this is a fictitious person, Joe Smith. It's not somebody I'm related to. I'm going to go backwards as you see me clicking back up here on the screen. And I'm going to put in someone I'm related to. I'm going to leave Joe, except I'm going to put Joseph. And I'm going to put in, instead of Smith, I'm going to put in Simon. Because I have a relative, an ancestor named Joseph Simon. And I happen to know that I'm not going to put this information in for him. And he was born about 1872, I think, in Missouri. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the right one? No, Illinois. I hope this is recording. I'm going to have a really fun time narrating this silent movie. So Joseph Simon was a relative of mine through my mom's line, my mother's side of the family. We would call that the maternal side. And he was a dude, so I click male there. And I'm just going to click search. See what happens. Okay, the first person I know is not my relative because my Joseph Simon, his wife, I think, was Adela. Adela was his wife, or Della. So none of these records are his. I may have his birth year wrong. Yeah, none of these people that I'm looking at as I scroll down are the person I'm looking for. The reason I know that is I actually know that he didn't live in these areas, okay? Like that's Baden, Prussia, which was actually Germany, but sometimes Germany was referred to as Prussia. This record here, same thing. This is Austria. I know that he wasn't from Austria. He wasn't born there. He wasn't born in Romania. I know his wife's name wasn't Idis, and he wasn't born in Russia. So that information, knowing that information helps you look through these different possible records and pick the ones that either definitely are or probably are, and you can look at those for information, or you can skip the other ones by just saying, "Oh, that can't be it's almost impossible or is impossible that that's my relative." All right, so I'm going to add some more information up here. So I go back to the top, and I'm over here in the search area. And all I have to do, instead of going back to the first page we were at, I can go to Edit Search. That'll keep everything that I have here written already, but it'll open it back up so I can add stuff or change what's there, okay? If I want a new search, I just click on that, and that clears it, clears everything that's in the windows. and allows me to start over. But I don't want to do that. So I'm going to click Edit Search. I'm going to put in a middle name. His middle name was Andrew. And there's a lot of Joseph Andrew Simons. I'm not remembering exactly when he was born, but I thought it was 1872. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1872, and then I'm going to click on this down here, and I'm going to say plus or minus like 2 years. So I can get Joseph Andrew Simons, who were born in 1870 through 1874, because I'm having trouble remembering his exact birth year. Okay, I'm not going to put anything in this because this is just a place where he might have lived. I know where he was born. He was born in Illinois. So I put it down here instead. And then I'm pretty sure his wife's name was Della, D-E-L-L-A, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to add that to help narrow it down, and maybe I can get records that are from him. And then I keep the male part on there. Click search. I know this isn't him because his father's name was also Joseph Andrew Simon. So I know that first record here, and this would be a family tree record. Let me click on that for you. This is what it would look like. It gives the person, if this were the person I was looking for, and his parents, and then spouse. Sometimes I'll have more than one spouse. Like here, this person's name is Della. That's similar to what I'm looking for, but I know that's not correct because her name wasn't Belle Simons. So this is what one of those looks like, but that's not what we're looking at. Then down here are Illinois death and stillbirth index records, and I know that's not my relative because Joseph Andrew Simon was not married to a kitty. So I'm not sure why this stuff's I can't find my relative because I've found him before. That's really kind of weird, actually. But I'm going to continue showing you how I look through all those, and I know that that's not my relative. So I can grab hold of this and go all the way up to the top, or I can push Control Home to the top, or I can use the arrow to go back up. Then I'm going to click on Edit Search again. And this time I'm going to get rid of the birth year completely because I'm not sure of it. And I'm going to put a place where I know he lived. And I'm going to put Goose Island, comma, Alexander County, and Illinois. And I'm going to get rid of Della, and I'm going to put Annie, because I think I'm mixing up the dad with the son, and leave the male there, and click on search and see what comes up again, different records that I can choose from. All right, so I look at this and I see this is my relative. I know it is Joseph A. Simon. And this is the dad one where he was born in 1832. I think his son, let's click on the 1880 census and see if we don't have a Joseph A. Simon listed as a child who was born later. Yeah, we do. So he was 4 years old in 1880, so I was wrong. He wasn't born in 1872, he was born in 1876. So that was one of the reasons I was having trouble finding records for him. This is the person I was looking for right here, Joseph A. Simon. So I'm going to click on him and open that up. Now, this shows him as a 4-year-old on a census record from 1880 in the Goose Island, which is a kind of a town or a village in the county of Alexander in Illinois, state of Illinois, United States of America. So that's the guy I was looking for. And I know because I already know a lot of information about him. And I see that his parents were Joseph Simon and Annie Simon. I knew their last name was Simon. Annie's maiden name was Davini. I know that, okay, already. So, and the reason it says Simon is that's her married name. And you notice here we get names and we get ages. And these are their children. I didn't know any of these people personally, but my mother knew some of them, and my father knew some of these people. So we have the right family. So that's how you go about searching in Ancestry.com to try to find, with the information you know about an ancestor, correct records that are specific to that individual. And I was looking for this guy down here, Joseph A. Simon, but I used his, other information, and I found his father, Joseph Simon here, who was born in 1832. And I used another name I knew as a possible spouse and found a correct census record with not only the person I was trying to find, Joseph Andrew Simon, but his parents and his older siblings. If I'm not badly mistaken, he was the youngest of the family. So now, with all this information here in front of me, you'll notice these blue names. If I put my cursor on them, I can click on that once, and it will open up other information that the computer robot thingy, whatever you call it, that's in Ancestry.com, will look for other records for Annie Simon. Or I could come down here and click on the guy I was looking for originally, Joseph A. Simon, and do the same thing. So I'm going to do that. I can do that for any of these people here. And before I do that, I wanted to just point out one thing. This person right here, if you look at the word Catherine, that's not a common spelling for Catherine, C-A-T-H-O. Okay, I know personally that her name was spelled T-H-E there. Okay, so it was either misspelled by the person who took the census and wrote it with, by hand, or the person that looked at the handwritten record on the film when they transcribed that information off of the census record that they photographed and they put it in and made an index. They put in the wrong letter. They misspelled Catherine because they thought it was spelled with an O. And we'll talk about more stuff like that. But I just wanted to point out, as I had mentioned earlier, sometimes names are misspelled or people read the document, the picture of the document, the census record, and they transcribe in the index a misspelled version of the name. So that's why we want to get more than one civil record or document that we know is pretty much trustworthy and compare them to try to find the correct spellings, the correct ages, the correct places of birth, marriage, death, etc. Okay? Now, back to clicking on one of these people. I'm going to click on Joseph Andrew Simon. And when I do that, watch what happens. Now I have specific information for him off of this record here that somebody, when they looked at this image, when it was blown up, this is what they got when they read it, and they typed it in. They typed that they saw Joseph A. Simon. They typed that he was 4, that he was born about 1876. The reason they say that is that he was 4 years old in 1880. And that his birthplace, according to whomever they asked when they took the census, said he was born in Illinois. And then this information is perfect information. It's not a mistake, because we know for a fact that Goose Island, Alexander, Illinois, USA was the place where they were living and where the census was taken. Then it tells you some more information about Joseph A. Simon here. Race, gender, relationship to head of house. He was the son. Obviously single at 4 years of age. It writes, the person wrote the names of his parents. And at that age, he could not read or write yet. Okay? I think he may have read and read and wrote later on in life, but I'm not sure. Not that matters. But the information is there. I don't know. I can't remember why they took that information down. Now, after I clicked on Joseph A. Simon and we got this specific information here off of this particular census record, if we were to open it, we could read and see that all this information is correct. Okay? It actually is written that way on this picture. But I want to point out, after I clicked on his name and this opened up, over here on the side, we have what's on this, I guess, a column here on the right-hand side of the screen. We have suggested records. And like I was saying earlier, the computer robot inside, or the algorithm, or whatever they call it, there's a program within the database of Ancestry.com that will look really quickly, light speed, like computers do and like programs do, and find records that are most likely related to Joseph A. Simon. I happen to know that this is correct. Okay, I've looked at all these records in the past. All these records can be clicked on. You notice that they're blue. And when I put my cursor on it, a little hand comes up with a finger pointing. And that means if I click with my left mouse button, it'll open that U.S. Find a Grave Index, which is basically information about somebody buried in a grave in a cemetery in the United States, sometime from the 1600s to today in 2019. Now, I know by looking at this information, that's my relative. And we see here that we were wrong about his death or his birth year. He was really born in 1878 on April 4th. And it says here, according to the record, probably from his death certificate or from a relative, that he was born in Alexander County, Illinois, United States of America. This is his death record. He died in Memphis. I knew that for sure. I knew he was in Calvary Cemetery. These are things I've gotten from my mom, and she got that information from her mother and other relatives that knew Joseph Andrew Simon Sr. And so since I happen to know that information in my head, that helps me match what I put into the database with what records come up. I hope that makes sense. So I can look at these. Now, you may not know all that stuff. So if you're not sure, all you can do is go down here at the bottom and you can click here and save it. Okay, now I've already saved that. So in the past, when I was looking for these records, I saved it. And so it's saved in what's called a shoebox. It's an electronic shoebox, and it's just a little area, kind of like a little cloud of my own, where I keep all my records that I find on Ancestry.com that pertain to my particular ancestors or living relatives. So this gives me also an image of his gravestone. So if I wanted to look at that, not all Find a Grave information has a picture of the gravestone or the cemetery, but most of them do. And so I'm going to click on this, and it opens up, and if I want, I can click on the image again, and I can't see that very well, so I'm just going to click on View Original, and that's going to get bigger for me so I can see that. And if I wanted to, I could actually save this. What I like to do is take my right mouse button and click on it, and it says Copy Image. I copy that, and then I'll sometimes put it in a Word document and save it. Or you can click on Save Image As with your left mouse button, and then you can type here in this area, Joseph Andrew Simon Sr. I might put gravestone. And then I would go up here and I would either save it on my desktop or another file that I put my stuff in. I don't happen to have a file right now for genealogy because this is a new hard drive in my computer, and I haven't created a file yet for that. So I'm still working on that. But I would probably put it on my desktop. So I would just click desktop as a place for me to save this image, and then I would save it. And then if I click minimize, I go out to my desktop. Here's the photograph of Joseph Andrew Simon. It's a JPEG file. Tells me when I saved it. or actually it tells me the date it was taken, and I guess put into Ancestry, and tells me more information about it. Now I can click on that, double click on that, and the computer laptop will open the image, hopefully. And there you go. It's on my desktop. So Joseph Andrew Simon, relative of mine, gives me his birth date and death date. Now, if I'm interested in the place where he was born, then what I would do is close these, and I would go back to this. Now, you may ask yourself, well, what are you putting this information into? I mean, well, some people have what are called pedigree charts. They're pieces of paper that are pedigrees, and then they also have family group records. The family group record would be an individual with a spouse or spouses, and then a child or children if they had any. And I'll open the program that I use. It's down here called Roots Magic. This is not a commercial for Roots Magic, at least not at this point. So this is what a pedigree looks like, pedigree chart. It starts with one particular individual. I'm going to go over here and find Joseph Andrew Simon. That's the blue. Then I can go and I can click on family. Okay, this is what's a family group sheet. It says that Joseph Andrew Simon Sr. had a family other than his parents and siblings. He actually had one wife, Annie Bell DeVinny, and these are his children that we're aware of. I'm pretty sure these are all that they had. And you'll see that there's a little place here where I can type all this information in. And if I double click on that name there, it comes up. If I wanted to put in more birth information, it says here he was born in Hannibal, Marion, Missouri. Well, this isn't complete. I need to put United States as well. So I'm going to add that. So that's how you do that. If you wanted to put more information about the place he was born, like maybe the hospital he was born in or the house, maybe you could write a note saying he was born in his own cabin or their own house. And then down here you can add information about his birth if you want. Sources of birth, you might say that you have if you open that, you might type in here the information, like you might type, I have a birth certificate, and then you would close it. And I don't know much about share this fact. I don't know what that would do. But based on the information I typed in here, the program, Roots Magic, has derived this little paragraph about Joseph Andrew Simon Sr. It says, Joseph Andrew Simon Sr. was born in 1832 in Hannibal, Marion, Missouri, United States. So basically, if you want, you can look down there and get the information, or you can get it out of these boxes up here. Shows his wife, his parents, birth, marriage. I don't have an actual marriage for him and Annie, so I put before January 1861 because I believe that's when their first child was born. I'm just presuming that. Then I know he died on the 12th of April, 1911 in Los Angeles because I have a facsimile image or a digital image of his death certificate that I found on Ancestry.com. This information here, this LDS information, is about religious ordinances that we do for our ancestors. So that's what this information is. And if you have any questions about that, you can ask me, but that's not something you may be interested in, or if you are, just ask me. You can write in the comments. Okay. So now you see where I put all the information I find on Ancestry.com. This is how I keep it. And why am I interested in my ancestors? Well, it's interesting to know first where you're from, who you are related to, and what they did with their lives. You can find out about them. I mean, you notice in the census records we were looking at, it actually told occupation for people, not just the heads of the home, but if people were old enough, like a wife or child or somebody living with Joseph Andrew Simon Sr., they also added what occupations they did, so you can learn what kind of work they did. You can learn if they read and if they could write and if they went to school and things like that. So I find it very interesting to know these little details about my ancestors. Now, I also have religious reasons for doing family history or genealogy work. And if you're interested in knowing about that, you can just comment and say, I'm interested, and then I can contact you privately. Later in other video recordings that I do, I may go into detail about why I and my wife and some of my relatives who are living actually enjoy doing family history or genealogy work, and what the religious purpose is as well. But I've always enjoyed it as a hobby as well. And there are literally millions of people in the world, not just in the United States, who also enjoy looking into their past, to whom they're related, their ancestors. And also, it's fun to meet your distant cousins, if you don't already know them, who are living. I mean, a lot of us already know who our cousins, our first cousins are, and people like that, aunts, uncles, and their families, their immediate families. But, after a few generations, like for myself in Arkansas, people who were the siblings of my father's father, my paternal grandfather, live in Arkansas. And it's only been in the last 10 years that I found them on Facebook and on Ancestry, because some of them do genealogy research too, and happen to be on Ancestry and have left comments there. And I was able to get their email addresses, and contact them. And so I've actually met some of these people in person by traveling to Arkansas. And now I'm building a relationship with, like third cousins and fourth cousins. And a lot of them had information I didn't have on my ancestors, their names, their birth information, death information, marriage information, a lot of photographs, for example. In this Roots Magic, there's a place where you can put photographs of people. I think let's see, add, it's not there. It's not on edit. But I know there's something where we can put photograph of each person, and it kind of comes up in a little picture right here somewhere. See if it's under file. I don't know, but somewhere here in Roots Magic, you can actually save photographs of your relatives. I think I have one on another relative. Let me go back to my pedigree. You notice I'm going backwards through my relatives. This is my mother, Judith Frederica Burbig. This is me, Thomas Frederick Goins. These are my living siblings. They're all alive right now. And this is my dad here. Now, if I go back through Robert and I go through the Burbig line, that's my maternal grandfather, sorry. And then this is his father. And then if I go down here to Woolsey Ship and click on him, whoa, what happened? You see right here? This is a picture of him. I'm not sure how we open this. But I somehow was able to save a picture of him. Let's see. Right here, this little kind of yellow picture, that's when he was young. And then right behind him here is a picture of him when he was really old, like 1912 or something. This picture here was of him like in the 1860s or 70s. But I don't know how to open that. So there are some things in Roots Magic I'm not really that good at, but this is where I put all my names and places and dates that are important to me, and all my notes and things. And there is a place where you can put photographs. So one of the things you can do in genealogy work is get photographs of your ancestors. And this one came to me through a genealogical society in some county in Arkansas. I can't remember what the county was, but it was a county where William C. Shipp lived. And they actually had this little photograph here, which shows him as a younger person. I know you can't see that, but where I'm circling, I actually got it from them. I found out that they had it, and they mailed it to me for free because I was a direct ancestor or direct descendant of him. So getting photographs is really fun. For example, on Ancestry.com, I'm going to go backwards just really quickly before we end this video. And I want to show you that there is an area in Ancestry.com. We're looking for Joseph Andrew Simon, where we can go and click on pictures. Now, this Joseph Seymour isn't my relative, but if he were my relative, this would be a picture of him. See, somebody has downloaded that to Ancestry because they have a family tree on Ancestry.com. I actually have a small family tree on Ancestry.com. It doesn't have all my relatives on it, but my Roots Magic, this thing right here, it has all of the ancestors and relatives that I'm aware of. And this is my personal place to store all that information where nobody can get to that information. Okay. But some people have public family trees on Ancestry.com, and you can have a private family tree on Ancestry if you want. So you can do your research and add information to your private family tree on Ancestry without others seeing it. Or if you want it open to the public, you can do that, like this person has. And he or she has put a photograph of Joseph Seymour Simon here and some information about him here. And then right here on this particular blue arrow, I can click on that and then click down here, and that would open up this family tree of whomever has put this information in there. It says up here, this is the person that has the Ancestry.com public family tree. There's a picture of her, looks like a woman, and it says Sir 19501 is the name that she goes by. Okay, and she has a Susan Seymour family tree, public tree, and Joseph Seymour Simon, his picture's there. Now, if we look at some of his other relatives here on this particular family tree, and this screen you're looking at is what we call a family group sheet, where you group together a husband and wife and children, or a husband and wives, or a wife and husbands, because sometimes a husband gets married, his wife dies, he gets remarried. Sometimes a wife gets married, her husband dies, she gets remarried, right? And so a lot of times you're going to put more than one spouse down. This particular guy, it looks like he just has one spouse listed, and then all his children below that with her. Her name was Marie. And then his parents. But you'll notice here, under Marie Florence Bertrand, who is Joseph Seymour Simon's wife, we'll click on that. And we have an image here, and we can click on it again, and it'll get bigger. And evidently, it says Grandma Bertrand. And I'm presuming that's Florence Bertrand Simon. I'm not sure what the Seymour's for there, but I guess that's the particular family line of the woman who's making this family tree, maybe. It gives us some information about her. Florence Bertrand, wife of Joseph Simon. They were of Louisiana. They moved to Texas. And it says they spoke French. So there's more information there. And this is a picture of her probably right here, Grandma Bertrand. Not sure who that is. I don't see that information added. And then there's some kids down here. But this is all we can see right now of this image. You can make it bigger if you really want. You can print it. You can also right click on it. You can copy the image and put it into a document. Or if you want, you can save it by clicking Save Image, and then you could type Grandma Bertrand. And if I were saving that, and I'm not going to, I would save it in my desktop along with these other pictures here. But I'm not going to do that. But that's how you would do that if you wanted to save an image, either on your desktop or in a file over here that you might have on the side, or a flash drive. So there are pictures on Ancestry.com. This would be a census picture that they've saved. This one also. And all this information here, it's not my relatives, but it just shows you the kind of information we have in Ancestry.com that you can look at. Public trees, like this person has put a, try to see if that's a death or, yeah, that's a death record. Death record for Mrs. Florence Seymour. And that's all the records, all the pictures of either documents or photographs. And here on the side, it would have told me Texas death certificate. If I want to view the original image, you can click on that. And it takes me to that on the microfilm that Ancestry has stored. And it gives me a bigger image. I can save this also as an image to my computer or a file. I can copy it and put it in a document. And this just kind of lets you know what a death certificate looks like if you've never seen one. You probably have, though. This is an old one from 1917, and they had only been keeping death records for about 20 years or less at that time, depending on the state. Not all states started saving, requiring death and birth records. But eventually, after 1900, 1904, somewhere around there, all states started requiring civil records like this of deaths, births, marriages. I'm not sure 100% why, but they did. And it's good for those of us that are interested in our ancestors and doing genealogy work. It's really nice. For example, it tells the cause of death for this particular person. Another contributory problem that occurred was that she had a cerebral hemorrhage. And so it can kind of tell you some of the issues that your ancestors may have had. A lot of things that you'll find on death certificates are congenital or genital, not congenital, are genetic. So this can help you also in your research to figure out your medical history, not just for yourself, but your ancestors. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video now and post it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and learned something. If I went too fast or you weren't sure about something or confused or you have a question or comment, please leave the comment on my YouTube channel, which is called Researching Your Roots. So it's, I dropped the G off the word researching and I put an apostrophe there because I say researching your roots. Okay? Kind of makes my channel special, at least the title. Most people won't use the word researching in the name of their channel. So I'm hoping that will make it easier for people to find me. My name is Thomas Goins. I am a genealogist. I have, about 41 years of experience and training. I do not have any certificates or licenses to be a genealogist. I think that would be nice, but I'm really good at doing this, and I think you'll learn a lot from watching this channel, even though I don't have all the pieces of paper yet. I may get those in the future. Thank you very much for watching my channel.